Seriously, I'm so sick of this cold weather. I wanted to go outside to a park and vlog, but it's raining and it's freezing, and there's actually like chunks of ice in the snow, or chunks of ice in the rain. I'm so upset. I wanted to spend today outside. My name's Olivia, and I am free. Hey guys, if you're watching this and you're upset that I didn't do a Facebook Live video, I'm really sorry. I decided not to do it because, because one, I didn't plan for it, and two, because I can't undo anything that I said and didn't mean to say. And like I said, I didn't plan to, so that might happen. So for this video, I'm going to go over some stuff I may have already talked about on Facebook, some things that you may know about me just from reading my story that I posted back in April 2018. So I'm going on 2 years of recovery, but I went and posted a written story and pictures and music video up of my recovery, and so you might hear a little bit of a repeat of that, but I have never spoken about it. Oh, and then also it's going to be an update and me talking about a little bit of my health issues. So for those of you who don't know me, all of this will be new to you. My name is Olivia. I grew up a military brat. I was born in Bamberg, Germany on an army base, and I was moved to Hawaii after that, and then moved to Texas, where I mostly grew up, and then moved to Lafayette, Indiana at the age of 14. I was raised to love Jesus and always put him first, above all things. My family always went to church. We always had a good church home, and I always was very involved in youth group in my home church in Texas, and I really loved playing games with the youth group, going on retreats with the youth, and doing events with the youth. I was just very involved, and I loved it, and I loved everything about it. Despite being heavily involved with the church and growing up in a Christian home, I struggled with depression, anxiety, and anorexia as far back as I can remember at the age of 6. And then at the age of 14, I began to self-harm, and bulimia started at the age of 19. I always went to public schools. I was never homeschooled or went to any private schools. Except for the last 2 years, I begged my mom to sign up for this online accredited free high school, and it was only my last 2 years of high school, so I did my junior and senior year online and graduated at the capital of my state. So it was a real graduation and everything. It was just, the school was all online. And then I did like a year and a half of college, but since I struggled so much with mental health issues, then I didn't continue with that. I actually ended up having to go to treatment. And I was in and out of treatment for, let's see, like for a year and a half. And then in January of 2018, at 21 years old, I was miraculously healed by the grace of God. And I will tell another story, a more in-depth story about how that happened. But it was really, truly a miracle because I did not want to get better. And at the time, I was not involved in any sort of therapy, and I was not taking any medications to help myself. And I just woke up one morning with this joy in my heart, with this wholeness in my heart that I had never had before. I felt complete. I felt whole, and I don't always have joy, but I always feel complete and whole now. And that was something that I never had before. And so even though I had experienced this miracle, I was still not better physically. And so, like, doctors thought that it was caused from my anorexia, but then they ended up finding out that it was not caused by that. They don't know what it was caused by, and they thought that I was probably just born with it. I realized that my health was not as great as I thought it was, even though I was doing well mentally and was weight restored for a while at this point, and my body was not malnourished. I still wasn't doing well. Like, physically, I was still struggling with a lot of health issues, and I didn't know why. So, I was telling my primary care doctor about it, and she wasn't really listening, and she wasn't paying too much mind to it. So I decided to call a cardiologist myself. And most of the time you need a referral for a cardiologist, but this cardiologist did not require a referral. So I knew that I had already been diagnosed with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, dysautonomia. But I felt like there was something more going on, or like it wasn't being well managed with the heart medication that I was taking. So I went and saw this cardiologist, and he didn't help me. So the first cardiologist didn't help, so I saw a new cardiologist. But I wore a monitor for a few weeks, and it recorded my heart rate getting past 200 beats per minute. And since it's just a heart monitor, it did not record my blood pressure or anything like that. And I was passing out, not too frequently, but I was passing out here and there, and like that alone is not normal at the age of 23, 22 at the time. Doesn't make a difference. It's not normal. So I just knew something wasn't right, and it wasn't being well managed. And then shortly after that, I was hospitalized for my heart, and they ended up putting me on some new medications to better manage it. And I mean, they helped a little bit, but not very much. Like, it's still not being that well managed. And then I ended up changing my primary care provider as well, because she was not helping, and she was not the one to refer me to the cardiologist. I ended up having to make the appointment myself. When switching to a new primary care provider, they diagnosed me with IBS, and referred me to an immunologist. because they saw that on my record. I had gone into anaphylaxis a lot, but I had never been allergy tested.
And as you can see there, I got really out of breath, but that's okay,
really weird.
Just my POTS.
And sent me to an immunologist/allergist. And he ended up doing an allergy test on me with 40 allergens, and I was allergic to every single one of them, and actually ended up going into anaphylaxis at the time of the appointment. Now, I didn't go into shock like I do most of the time. Most of the time, I get to the point where I'm just about to go into shock. This time, he had given me some medications before I had to use the EpiPen. He said that was not normal at all. He said also that it wasn't normal that I was going into anaphylaxis for no reason at all. And I had a lot of the symptoms related to this condition that he ended up testing me for and diagnosing me with, called mast cell activation syndrome. And this is it's like an immunological disease where your immune system attacks itself like it does with allergies, but for no reason at all. Like, there's no allergen detected, or like it detects everything as an allergen, or decides to detect something as an allergen for no apparent reason. So shortly after that, my immunologist said that I had a blood disorder called leukopenia with neutropenia, which is pretty much when your immune system is very low and cannot fight off viruses or bacteria. So any sort of infection that I might get, my body would not be able to fight it off. And I had it for years, but it just had gone ignored this whole time. And so he said that that could very well be a part of the mast cell activation syndrome, but he sent me to a hematologist slash oncologist to be sure that it wasn't cancer. And so he then, the hematologist then did a bone marrow biopsy, and I actually never went in to get the results of the test, but until recently. I got that back in the fall of 2018, and I just now recently found out the results of it. And I do not have cancer, so that's a good thing. No cancer, and that was a huge relief. So then I ended up getting sent over to Neurology because I was having really bad headaches and migraines, and what the hospital called mini seizures. They weren't really sure what was going on. And this was back when I was in treatment, and they just were never, nothing was ever done about it. And so then Neurology says, well, I don't know, you're on a lot of medications right now, and there's nothing I can really do for you at this point. So he did nothing. And then my primary care doctor at a checkup then referred me over to rheumatology to test for rheumatological issues, and I tested negative for every single rheumatological issue they tested for. And so she then was like, well, I have no idea what's going on with you, because you clearly have a lot of different and complex issues going on. We just have no idea like what's going on. And at the time and currently, I've been losing a lot of weight, and like no one knows why. I get sick when I eat. I sometimes can't eat or feel nauseated, and know that I will get sick if I eat. And this has nothing to do with my past history of anorexia. because the issues have been slowly getting worse. And if they were caused from the anorexia, then they should be getting better with normalized eating, but they are actually getting worse. And so the rheumatologist did end up finding something though. So rheumatology kind of works with orthopedic doctors, I guess, because of like arthritis issues and that sort of thing. But she ended up noticing that the muscle on my hand is missing. Like this hand is normal, and this hand has like all the muscle gone right here. And so I had noticed that like only a few months prior to her pointing it out on me, and told one of my doctors, and they said that it wasn't an issue, even though I had complained to my pediatrician at 14 years old saying that I had an issue with shoulder pain, and nothing was ever done about that either. So the rheumatologist finally, like, it takes physical symptoms for them to finally do something or to finally hear me or believe me about something, but she sees it and ordered a EMG test, which is a nerve and muscle functioning test. Through this EMG test, they end up finding something called cervical neuropathy, which there are 3 segments to a person's spine. There is the cervical spine, there's the thoracic spine, and then there is the lumbar spine. And I was diagnosed with scoliosis at the age of... I was diagnosed with scoliosis at a very young age. And so I thought that maybe it was related to that, but I asked my rheumatologist, and she told me no. Despite all the research that I had done already, I don't know if I believe her. I don't think I do. So, because, like, the spine is all connected, and if there's a problem in the lower spine, there could be a problem in the upper spine. So I don't know if I necessarily believe what she's saying, but as far as I know, there's an issue with my cervical spine that is causing nerve and muscle damage in actually both arms, which I thought it was only my right arm. And I did start experiencing symptoms in my left arm, but it was like only a few months before I had gotten that nerve and muscle test done, and it has been getting worse. So after getting the nerve and muscle test done, I was sent over to the Neuroscience Center in Indianapolis. So it took me like 3 months to get into that appointment. And while waiting to get into that appointment, I had gone to my doctor's appointments as usual, and all of the doctors that I have mentioned are now my regular doctors. Like, they're all my specialists that I see on a regular basis. So I was going in for a follow-up with my immunologist one time, and he had mentioned something called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a connective tissue disorder that is caused by defective collagen. So collagen is like in all the soft parts of our body. It's in like tendons, ligaments, our gums, our tongue, our skin, our organs, our muscles. Like, it's in all parts of the body. And so he brought it up, and then he said, and like when he brought it up, I remembered that there was a girl that I went to treatment with, that had that. And I just remember that she had that, and we had watched a Grey's Anatomy episode about it, and I did not remember too much more about it. I just remember that she was a very fragile person. And so then he looked at me and he said, "Do you know what the Buyten Scale is?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, the Buyten Scale is the scale that we test your hypermobility, and it's a scale of how many you can do out of 9." And so then he asked me if I was a very flexible person. I told him that I did cheerleading and gymnastics growing up, and I told him that I also tried, like just for fun, being a contortionist at the age of 19, and like quickly progressed. So then he said, "Okay, well then let's see what you score on the Buyten Scale." And so the Buyten Scale is these things he tests for. He tests for whether I can take my thumb and touch it to my wrist, and then if I can do that, that's 1 point. And then he tested this side as well, and then if I can do it on both sides, then that's 2 points. And then if I could take my pinky finger and push it past 90 degrees, then that's 3 points. And then I could not do it on this side. It only goes up to 90 degrees. So then I do not get that point. And then if I could hyperextend my arms, so like if my arms bend past, and if I can stand up and with my legs together and knees straight, and bend down and touch the ground with my hands flat to the ground, that's another point, and I can do that as well. And then if my legs can also hyperextend like my arms, then that's another point for each leg. And so I can do everything on the list of the Buyten Scale except for my right hand. My pinky does not go past 90 degrees. So since I have POTS, mast cell activation syndrome, and I test a 8 out of 9 on the Buyten Scale, he said that it is very likely that I have EDS. So he sent me to a geneticist in Indianapolis to do genetic testing to see if I have EDS. Now I am a little skeptical, like I think that I have EDS, but I'm also a little skeptical because I mean I was sent to a rheumatologist to get tested for rheumatological issues, and I don't have any of those. And then I was sent to hematology and oncology to get tested for cancer, and I don't have cancer, which thank God I don't. But then I was sent to so many different places to get tested for so many different things. EDS is just another thing that they're testing me for at this point, even though I line up with a lot of the symptoms, even though there are 13 types of EDS, and there's a higher chance that it could be that. I'm still very skeptical of whether it could be that. But if it is that, then we will know how to manage it better, because I am having to get surgery on my spine for the cervical neuropathy that I talked about, and with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, surgery has special protocols that need to be taken because the body is a lot more fragile for people with EDS, and it is also a rare condition. And since there's 13 types, each is very unique. Although they're a lot alike, each is very unique, and so they will need to know like what protocols to take before doing the surgery. So I don't have a date for the surgery yet, and I do not have I have not received a call for when my appointment is for the geneticist yet. But I will find those things out soon, and I will keep you guys updated. And also, if you guys can pray for me for peace of mind, and for prayer for just stress relief, that would be great. I would really appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys for supporting me and watching this video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend.